All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for showing up as usual. This is our final webinar of the SMDP SAVIX program. And we're going to be doing a lot of review today, checking in. This is really a good opportunity, and the last opportunity, at least within a webinar, for you guys to ask questions about things you don't understand. Realize that everybody is at different places in terms of catching up with all the assignments. So certainly if it's information that was 2 or 3 modules ago and you just need some clarification, by all means, bring it up to the Q&A a little bit later. What's going to happen after today is that we've given you a 2-week grace period. We want everybody to catch up, and as we've said over and over again, if there's some particular area where you need assistance one-on-one in real time, then Hugh and Andrew are there to do that for you. They're there to help you via Skype, most likely is the best way to do it, or app. But this is the time to get that support so that ideally, if all goes well, we can have our virtual graduation planned. I think the date that we had planned for it would be August 2nd. So it's a Friday. So it actually gives you a little bit more than 2 weeks. Today would be July 30th, but we're going to give you till the end of the week, and we'll do it at the same time as we usually do it, but instead of Friday the 2nd. And between now and then, another really important thing is a scholarship recipient. Right now, I know we have one other person that usually joins us and is not with us, Joy, who is not a scholarship recipient. But for everyone who's a scholarship recipient, there's 3 key documents that we need completed. One is the post-self-assessment. When you started the course, we asked you to look at your skills and where you were at that point in time. So we want to go back and look at the post-self-assessment to see what you've learned. And that will be helpful for us. It's also helpful for you. The other thing that's critical is to have a MasterCard Foundation evaluation form completed. And everyone, no matter what stage of completion they have in the course, has to complete this. It's very simply, we don't get paid if you don't fill that out. So it's very key that everyone complete the MasterCard evaluation. And finally, we will have an electronic course evaluation. You'll get an email link. It'll bring you to a survey, and we're going to ask you some specific information about the course and what worked for you and what areas you had trouble in. So 3 important things that need to be done: self MasterCard evaluation and SMDP evaluation. So those things will come out in about a week, and we assume that you'll probably have most everything done by then, but if you don't. But we would like the evaluations, and I will be incredibly annoying about tracking you down if we don't get those evaluations in hand, including sending someone to your house late at night, your door, ask you for the evaluation. No, we don't.
With a baseball bat.
We really do need that information. It's very helpful for us to make sure that we're doing a good job, and to make sure it was also a good experience for you. We don't know exactly what's going to go on after we end our MasterCard relationship, the South Africa workshop, but there may be a possibility that we run this course again and offer it just to a market offering so that anybody who wants to pay can join it. So just to let you know that things coming in your email in the next week or so, and appreciate your cooperation with that. All right. I see that Helia has joined us, so that means we can officially start the webinar. I'm going to turn it over to Hugh, and then maybe at the very end I'll have a few words. So, Hugh?
Okay. Right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's afternoon for pretty much everyone except Bill. I got a question for you. What I plan to do today is I plan to go over what we call miscellaneous utilities, okay, which means stuff we haven't covered, which are other tools that exist on the system, which you may not be aware of, and we want to make you aware of them so that there are no surprises. But before I get into that, I would like to know, we talked to you about the trainer performance report and the trainer comparison report, okay? And the distinction I drew between those is I said that the trainer comparison report is a report which is created by the project administrator and is internal to the project, and it doesn't have anything to do with the MIS administrator. And the other one is the trainer performance report, which is a report which is automatically created, but the criteria for scoring are set by the MIS administrator in consultation with the staff. Now, I'm wanting to know if you are okay with what we did on that, which was in Module 5, or whether you would like me to go over that again so you're really sure about it. So those of you who would like me to go over it again, could you indicate that by either unmuting your microphones and saying so, or writing in the sidebar? Well, so far, nobody. Somebody has said, please repeat. Okay. Okay. We have a report which is called Project Administrator, sorry, as you were, which is called the Trainer Performance Report. And we have another report which is called the Trainer Comparison Report. The Trainer Comparison Report is a report which is created by the project administrator. Let me show you what I've got here on that. Let's see now, where are we? Show. Here we go. Okay, now I'm going to go into an MIS I've created, okay? Can everybody see this?
Yep, looks good, Hugh.
Okay, good, right.
Yes.
MIS name in this case is VSL Associates Tanzania. And we have, I'm going to go in as the project administrator, okay? So that is okay. Now, when I come to the operational reports, remember these are reports which deal with field staff and what's going on in the field. We have two trainer reports. We have trainer comparison and we have trainer performance, okay? Now, the trainer comparison report is a report which is created by the project administrator at this level. They can select whatever metrics they want, like number of groups, percentage of female members, attendance rate, and they can compare field officers, for example, and of all supervisors. So we're going to get all field officers and we're going to look at those reports. So we run a quick study of that report, and we run that report, and that will tell us how these trainers are performing in comparison to each other within the project based upon metrics which have been selected by the project. So we can see that Julia has got the most groups, okay, RISPA's got the least. The percent of female members is most with RISPA, and the least is with Peter Kimani, and the attendance rate is best with Julia, and it's worst with RISPA. So this is a project report set up by the project administrator, okay? However, we have another report called the Trainer Performance Report, and this report is not created by the project administrator. It is automatically set up by the MIS administrator and it automatically produces a report. Now, all I'm really trying to ask you here is if you are clear about how that is done, because if not, I will go over it again, because I think it's one of the most important reports. Okay, so can you indicate whether or not you are okay with it, or whether you feel that you need a bit of revision on it?
I can tell that William Mavuso, I think, would like help on that. So.
Okay, William's got something in the sidebar, does he? Okay.
Yes. He seems to want you to.
Okay. Now, all right. Well, let's do that. Now, if I go to this report, you'll see there's nothing in it. Okay. And the reason there's nothing in it is because this is not set up by the project administrator. It's set up by the MIS administrator. Okay. Right. So the MIS administrator, I log out and I go in as MIS administrator. Okay. Okay. And so I go for the same project. Okay. I then put my credentials as MIS administrator. Okay, right, now this takes me into the project, and I go to MIS configuration, and I have here trainer performance configuration. All right, now what I have here, okay, is basically I'm going to reset this. This is what you will find when you go in. It will be blank, okay? But you will have some default metrics which have been selected, like number of groups, attendance rate, average annualized, remember, percent of members with loans outstanding, and return on savings, okay? Now you can change those. I can, for example, cut out attendance rate. I can substitute that for percentage of female members. So I can choose what I like. But let's assuming we stick with the default. Then we say, okay, I'm the MIS administrator, and there's a noise in the background. Bill, I think that might be good. Do you have your mic? Could you mute your mic? Bill, can you mute your mic? Okay, thank you. Right. Now, the minimum, let's say we agree as a group that the minimum number of groups that a trainer should create is 10. And we say the maximum is 20. If you get 25, fine, but you don't get any extra marks. The attendance rate, the lowest we're prepared to accept is 80. The maximum, obviously, is 100%. We say, let's say here, so far as savings are concerned, the minimum we expect from an individual who is a member of a group would be 75,000 Tanzania shillings a year, which is about $30. And then we say the maximum we would expect is 300,000. Okay. Percent of members with loans outstanding, 0 is okay, 100% is okay. And return on savings, we don't want to see less than 10%, and we don't want to see more than, well, no, it's not that we don't want to see more, but 30% is an acceptable maximum. Now, so we've put in maximum and minimums for these trainers. This is the parameters that we've agreed by sitting around together. And then I say, okay, now which one are we going to say is the most important? So I'm going to say that number of groups, I'm going to give that 30%. Attendance rate, 30%. Average annualized savings, 20%. 10% for number of members with loans outstanding, and 10% for return on savings. You'll notice that all equates to 100. Now, what this basically means, let me explain this for you. Let's take the case of number of groups. So if you've got 20 groups, you score 30%. You've got the maximum percentage of marks you can for that particular metric. If you've got less than 10, you get 0. But if you get, let's say, 15, that is halfway between 10 and 20, you wouldn't get 30, you would get 15, because that is halfway between the upper and the lower. So now what I do is that, and I do that, here the same applies. If my attendance rate is 100%, you get 30. If my attendance rate is below 80%, you get 0. But if it's 90%, you get half, and half of 30% is 15. So this gives you an idea of how this creates a score. So I save that. Okay. That's all saved. And then I quit. And I go back into the project, not as the MIS administrator, but as the project administrator. Okay, so Associates Tanzania. And now I go in as project administrator. I go to the operational reports. I click on trainer performance, and I want to compare field officers. And I run my report. Let's see what happens. Okay. So here, what I have at the top is I have the actual results. So here you can see Julia has 23 groups, RISPA has 5. Best attendance rate is also RISPA and Julia. Sorry, is Majulia and Julia. Average annualized savings, the best is Peter Kimani. Percent of members with loans outstanding, the best is Esther Nganga. And return on savings, the best is Peter Kimani. Okay, so these are the actual scores from their portfolio. But then because this is the actual results from their portfolio, but when we factorize it by the weightings that we gave and we take into account the upper and the lower scores, down below here, you get a score. Okay, now I'm not quite sure why this is showing 114.8%, because it shouldn't. Okay, there's obviously something I have to attend to there, because you can't get more than 100% as a score. I have to look into that. I think it may have to do with the fact that we've just set it up, but I'm not sure. Let me take another look. No, there's something wrong there. I have to sort that out. But the basic idea is that this will give you a score for each field officer, and it's automatically generated every time you open up the system. So all projects within the MIS are judged upon the same basis, okay? All right, now this is the first time I've ever seen a score greater than 100%, so I have to look into that. But I think it's probably because I just entered the parameters and they still have to work their way through, because the system updates itself every 5 minutes. Okay, we'll come back to that later. But that base, and the reason this is a valuable report is because it is not subjective, it is not influenced by the project administrator's preferences, and it is a standard that is applied across all projects within an MIS. Any questions on that before I move on to the miscellaneous utilities?
Hello, I do have a question.
Yeah?
Yes, this is Elia speaking. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My question, I made the same question in the group, but since I think you didn't, suppose I responded later. It was with regard to the average sizes. And
with regard to what, sir?
To some indicators, average sizes, average loan size, net profit. I wanted to know if those that are entered manually or if the system calculates.
The system calculates them. Anything in reports is calculated by the system. So, for example, if it says average savings, the system is calculating it. If you remember, when we went through the data entry process, you were asked to put in savings for the group.
Yes.
You were asked to put in loans, okay? So
Yes.
What the system does on the basis of the data that you have entered and the data entry screens, all those results are automatically calculated by the system.
Okay. And what happens if for example, we have other type of data that's not standard?
Well, we've already covered that, because we went through user-defined fields in the last webinar, in which you can create your own user-defined fields. And we're going to go over today what the data entry forms look like for that. But we did go over that in the last webinar, so if you didn't see it, I suggest you take a look at the last webinar, which goes into the question of user-defined fields, okay?
I attended the last webinar and I saw the user defined. Maybe I didn't say it correctly, my question.
Okay.
What I wanted to know is that if the treatment is the same, since those that are defined are not standard for the all how can I say, are not the default data. So the system acknowledge the data the same way. Either
Yes.
if it's
Oh, I
standard
see
or,
what you mean. Yes.
yes,
Well,
that's my question.
the thing is this, when you enter user-defined data, it shows up in different ways. For example, if you put, let's say you select on the standard data fields, if you select name of chairperson and you write in the name of the chairperson, okay,
Yes.
that will show up in reports, but only reports in which group data is displayed. So for example, if you looked at the group comparison report, you would
Yes.
get the data on the address of the group, right? But if you go up to the level of the trainer comparison report, you wouldn't get that data because the trainer has many different groups with different addresses, right?
Okay.
However,
Understood.
if you say number of members who are, let us say, female heads of households, that's a user-defined field, right? That
Yes.
will show at the project level, and it will show at the trainer comparison report level, and so it will show it. It'll show at the trainer comparison report level where you're looking at you're not looking at individual group. Sorry, let me get that right. If you go to the group comparison, you will see that data, right? Because you're comparing groups of a single field officer.
Yes.
If you go upwards to trainer comparison, you will still see that data, but aggregated for that individual field officer, right?
Okay. Okay.
So wherever it is numerical or a
Yes.
percentage, you will see
Yes.
it in these higher level reports. But where it is text related to, let's say, the name of the chairperson or their telephone number, that would only show at the group comparison report for individual trainers.
Okay. Thank you. It's understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on what I just went through, which was the setting up of the trainer performance report? Right, now, let me see if there's anything. Right, okay, we're good. So now what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go through odds and ends, other utilities, other things you can do with the system that you may not be aware of, okay? So let me go and dive into my PowerPoint on that. Okay, I think this is the right one. Yes, what's what I call miscellaneous utilities. In other words, it's just odds and ends. Just a minute. I'll move that over to there. And I'm going to get started. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one to open. I need to actually open the, I actually need to open the PowerPoint. Where are we? PowerPoint, here we are. Close that file. Open miscellaneous utilities. Okay, here we are. All right, now I don't think you can see that, can you? Okay, let me just go in and open it up. Okay, I'm just trying to find it. Miscellaneous utilities, where are we? Close that. Open up. Just a moment. Okay, Where are we? I have to find it again. It doesn't seem to want to show itself. Just a moment. It always takes a few seconds. Here we are. Right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, right, let's get started. Usual. Okay. Hello, somebody doesn't have their mic muted. I hear a conversation. Okay, right. Let's carry on. Okay, now we're basically looking here at odds and ends, stuff we haven't covered, okay? So, other configuration settings by the MIS administrator, okay? We've already shown you how the MIS administrator sets up a project. We've also shown you how the MIS administrator creates a trainer performance report. Let's look at other utilities. Okay, now I've logged on here as the as the MIS administrator, you see here? And I come to this tab which says MIS configuration. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so we have already shown, we've already been through group user-defined fields and trainer user-created fields. We're now onto these three, okay? User MIS management, user management, and trainer configuration. Okay, so those are the three things we're going to cover as MIS administrator. Okay, right, MIS management. So here we are. You can see MIS management under MIS configuration. Okay, then. What this does, we have MIS settings and we have delete MIS, okay? So MIS settings, this one says collect trainer supervisor location when creating a trainer or supervisor. If you click on that, it will automatically require you to enter GPS data on where your trainers are living. That will automatically show up in when you're adding the names of trainers. Very few people bother with it, but it's available too if you want it, okay? The second thing is it will ask you if you want to decide on sum or averages for user-created fields, okay? Now, if you have a user-created field, let's say you have a number of widows, number of women whose husbands have died, okay? So you could say, I want to know the total, or I want to know the average of these number of widows. So I would click average, I would click on that, and then I would have to define, by clicking on that and saving, I would have to define whether or not I wanted sums or averages. By default, you have a sum, okay? And wherever there are numerical figures, you have sums and you have averages underneath them, but by choosing which you want to have, you can choose the one or the other. And then finally here, erase the MIS, you see here? Now, you can't erase the MIS as the MIS administrator from inside the MIS itself. If you click on that, it will send an email to this address up here, to your MIS administrator address, which will ask you to confirm that you want to erase the MIS. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, if there are no questions about that, let's move on. So the next thing is, okay, so let me just go back here. It asked you here, in item 3 here, define how to aggregate user-created fields for reports containing the status. It's only related to user-created fields. I forgot to mention that. So here's how. You have a user-created field, okay, and it will ask you whether you want it to be a sum on that user-created field or an average, okay? All right, so aggregation for project or trainer, sum or average, and aggregation for project and trainer comparison report, you can have both sum and averages. So for user-defined fields, you can in fact decide how you want that data to display. It is not very often used. The first aggregation choice produces sum or averages of user-created fields across rows in reports. Okay, and then the second aggregation choice allows the user to decide on totals or averages or both at the bottom of user-created field columns in reports. You need to play around with this to feel confident you really know what it's doing. Okay. Right, next is user management. Okay, now, again, the next category, one, is user management. Now, this one is a very interesting field, okay? You have an MIS administrator, okay? So you see we're under user management, okay? It allows you to have more than one MIS administrator, okay? So you can add, by clicking on add, you can add another username and password for another MIS administrator. It could be that a person, you share the responsibility. It could be that a person is on a vacation for a long time, so you decide to have another person stand in and perform that role. Okay, it's not that common, but it can be done. Now, the second one I think is of real value. Okay, visitor 3. Now, what do we mean by a visitor? Now, the thing about the system is, if let's say you're working with government, okay, so you decide that you'd like to share your results with government, but you're a bit scared of giving project credentials to a government administrator, because if they go into the system, then you don't really know if they're going to be responsible or use it properly, or they might decide to change things. Okay? Well, in this particular case, you can add a person's name, or you can add, let's say, something which says the username could be, let's say, visitor1. You can have a password like 111111, and you can give those credentials to anybody, and they can come onto the system and they can look at absolutely everything, and they cannot change anything at all. Okay, they can produce a report, they can observe a report, they can print a report, but they cannot enter any data, they cannot change any of the configuration settings. Okay, very, very useful utility. Okay. Now, the next utility is a very commonly used utility. Let's say, let's go to it, trainer configuration. Now, if you're a project, the default for trainers is, we call them field officers. The default for community-based trainers, we call them village agents. Okay, and the people who are managing the work of field officers we call supervisors. But maybe in your project you have you use a different term. Okay, so let's see. So you click on here, the trainer configuration, and the default titles are these: supervisor, field officer, village agent, unpaid agent, agent unknown if paid, project paid agent, etc. Okay? All right. So those are the default settings, and they're automatically reproduced on the right-hand side here. Okay? But as you can see, these are cells in which you can enter data. So you can change it. So if I go to, let's go to the next screen, and I'll show you how we decided to change it. Now here's how we decided to change it. You'll notice that the supervisor remains a supervisor, but we've called the field officer an animator, and we've called the village agent a community-based trainer. Okay? We've changed the titles for field officers and village agents to CBTs. Okay. Now, you have the possibility of 4 different types of community-based trainers. So we have unpaid agent, agent unknown if paid, project paid agent, and group paid agent. And we've decided 2 things. We don't have unpaid agents, and we don't have we do know whether agents are paid or not. So we hide these 2 labels by clicking on the blue button. But this leaves these 2, project paid agents and group paid agents, and we change the name to project paid CBT and group paid CBT. So these 2 are changed, and these 2 are hidden, and then these 2 remain active and they are modified. Any questions about that? I can't see the sidebar, so if there are any questions, they're being typed in. Maybe Andrew, you can let me know.
Hugh, so Hilia has asked, so if trainer labels are changed, the report will provide the label names, correct?
Yes. Once you change it here, it will change throughout the entire system. Okay? Wherever you saw the word field officer before, you will now see the word animator. Okay? All right. Now, so we've done trainer configuration, trainer configuration. And now what we're going to do is we're moving away from we're moving away from MIS configuration. Well, no, it's not quite true. We're moving from the MIS configuration to the data export label. Okay? So this means that you can export a data file in Excel of all the data that you have in the system. Okay? So you click on data export. Okay? Then you decide if you want all your data sets. Let's say you've been in business for about 3 years and each group has about 5 or 6 data sets. Do you want all of the data sets or do you just want the most recent ones? Okay, so here you see we've set all. Sorry, we've clicked on the blue, which is most recent data set. Okay, and that would set it to up here to most recent data set. Or you click on all and it sets all at the top. All is the default setting. Okay. The MIS then presses download Excel file and it will create an Excel file, okay, which appears on your screen requesting, it gives the name of the file up here. As you can see, it's a crazy long name. And then you open it with Microsoft Excel. Okay, you click open with Microsoft Excel. And then it will give you a complete Excel data file of all your data. And you'll notice here, well, you can't really see it actually, it's not that clear, but this happens to be where we're collecting data, the most recent data. But this is part of the data set that you would see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go back into an MIS and I'm going to go through this actively on screen so you see how it's done. And I'm going to come back and finish this PowerPoint later. So let me just now stop sharing the screen. Now I'm going to have to share it again. All right, and I'm going to go to, I think this is not that one. Where are we? Sorry, okay, I'm just going to have to open it up. Yeah, okay, here we are. Just a minute. Okay. Now let me just have a quick look at that. Where are we? Where are we? I'm looking for, here it is. Okay, now you can see my screen, okay? So let's go through this one by one. Okay, now I'm going to go on as MIS administrator. Sign in. All right. Then I'm going to go to MIS configuration, and I'm clicking on MIS management. Okay, and here I can collect trainer supervisor location. I can define how to aggregate. Okay, I can save that, and I can delete my MIS by clicking delete MIS here. Okay, now if I say delete MIS, it says, are you sure? Now, if I delete it, I click delete, it won't delete. It will still be there unless I activate it on my email address. So I'm going to keep that MIS. Okay, I'm going to leave that as it is. Save that. Okay, settings have been set. Right, now I go back to the next file, which is user management. Okay, so under user management, I can add a new MIS administrator. Okay, now if I create a new MIS administrator, I must use an email address because it is an MIS administrator. So I put the username, I put the password, I confirm the password, and that will allow me to have the new MIS administrator. But MIS visitors, I can add here, and I can say visitor 1. And I'm going to do 11111111111. Save. Okay, so now we have visitor credentials. That's done. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go to my trainer configuration screen, and here you see I'm going to call the field officer, I'm going to call them animator. And I'm going to call this one CBT. I'm going to hide my unpaid agent and my agent unknown if paid. And my project paid agent becomes project paid CBT, group paid CBT. Okay, and I save. Okay. Now don't worry, I'm going to show you how that plays out later. Okay. Now, all right. Now the next one is data export. I click data export, and I'm going to export most recent data set. Download projects. I have to click on the project because I'm the MIS administrator. So I've selected my project here. There's only one, but there could be more. And then I download the Excel file and I open it. And here it is. Okay. A massive file with all your data in it for all the groups in your project. Okay. And that is the most recent data set. And then, of course, I can start editing if I want to. I can make those columns wider and so on and so forth. So that's how I get my data off the system. Okay, if I need it. All right. All right. And that's the lot. Now, the only thing I want to go back into now is I want to log out and go back in as project administrator. Sign in. And now I'm going to go into the data entry screens, okay? I go to trainers and supervisors, and you'll notice here all the names have changed. Animators, CBT, CBT. Let me just click on that to sort them. So now you see wherever we had CBTs, we have them here. Okay? So that shows how when you do that setup as the MIS administrator, it reflects right back into the project. Okay, those are the miscellaneous utilities. And there is only one thing that remains, and that has to do with price. Okay, right, let's pull up that PowerPoint. There we are. Okay, I think I've still got it. Right, let's just share it. Where is it now? Yeah, there we are. Okay. Okay. What this means is that the system is not free. And why are we doing this? Okay, since we started using the system 5 years ago, we were supported by fees paid by AKF, CareCRS, PCI, Plan, and World Vision. These organizations paid all the costs for the system. Okay, now, and at the present time, we get support from CareCRS, Plan, Strom Foundation, and World Vision. We have 5 large international organizations that are paying to support the system. Okay, but costs have increased. We started out thinking we would have 500 projects, but we had 3,000 projects. And that costs us a lot more money to maintain on the internet than the original 500. And the fees from those 5 organizations only covered 65% of our costs. So we decided that everybody would have to pay. Okay, so we've devised a payment structure for MIS users who are not part of these large networks that is based upon the number of their active, the size of their active project. The larger the project, the less you are charged per group, but the more you are charged in total. Okay. If you have projects which you want to declare to be inactive, you don't have to pay for them. So if you've got a project that's been there for a long time, it's come to an end, you're not going to add any more data, you declare it inactive, you can keep the data on the system, and we don't charge you for it, but we don't allow you to add any more data to it, okay? If you decide that you've changed your mind and you want to add new data, you would then have to add it as an active project. We would have to change the status back to being active, and you would have to pay for it. But if you're not going to add any more data, keep the data, we don't charge you. Now the following table shows the fees we'll be charging from, this was from January the 1st, 2019, and this is the costs, okay? So if you have less than 50 groups, you don't pay anything. That allows users to experiment with the system. Note that if you have users with 10,000 groups or more, enterprise level, you will have unlimited access. These are enterprise level users. usually with very large numbers of groups. For example, CARE has more than 50,000 groups on the system in active projects and 60,000 in inactive projects. So it's only paying about 10 cents per year per group. Okay, but if you've got between 50 and 100, you pay $360 a year. If you have between 100 and 250, it's 660, and so on. So let's say you have a project of 400 groups, you'll pay $960 a year to retain access to the system. And what happens is once you pass the 50 threshold, if you haven't contacted us, your access to the system will be blocked, and a message will come up asking you to contact a certain email address, and then they will ask which projects you wish to maintain as active, and then they will tell you how much that will cost. And once you have committed to paying for it, even before you've paid for it, the system will be opened up again and you can carry on using it. Okay. Now, on this basis, when we initiated this it was in April 2018, we've already succeeded in covering all of our costs. We don't have a huge profit, but we have a small profit, and we are covering our costs and we are financially sustainable. So we are not donor dependent to keep the system running, but we are not in the business of wanting to make a lot of money off it. We simply want to be able to be sure we have enough money to keep it running, maintaining it on the internet, enough money to have a dedicated troubleshooter who works full-time on maintaining the system and helping us out, and a certain amount of money left over for new development. But we're not trying to make a massive amount of it. Our objective is not to make a huge profit, but obviously we don't want to make a loss. Okay, that's everything. I've covered pretty much everything, I think, except one final thing. Okay?
Can I ask a question about the...
Let's have some questions, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah, you mentioned that of the original sponsors of the system, at the time Foundation dropped out, so the rest are still paying. Are they paying just to support, or are they just paying as clients?
Are they paying what?
Are they paying as clients, or are they paying the way they used to pay? They're not paying. They're not supporting as a gift. They are paying for the use of the system.
Look, basically, what it boils down to is this. To be honest with you, we don't care who pays. I mean, if Bill Gates showed up on my doorstep and said, you know, we would like to pay for all the groups, all the projects in the system, we'd say, fine, write us a check. But different organizations have different purposes. CARE, for example, wants to have a worldwide network. And it wants all it, and so does CRS. They want all their projects to be on the system, and they run it centrally. Other organizations are national organizations, and they're local, and they have an MIS, and they want to pay to keep 3 projects running, in which case they write to us and they take responsibility for paying. You could also get regional organizations. Let's say Plan International has an East Africa region, and they want to cover the costs of all the projects in their region. They can do so. Once one person has paid for a project, nobody else has to pay for it. It's completely paid for, so there's no double payment for anything. So it's not like Plan Tanzania has to pay and then Plan Regional has to pay. If Plan Region pays, Plan Tanzania does not. If Plan Tanzania pays for a project, Plan Regional does not. Once it's paid for one time, it's active. Does that answer your question, Andrew, or not?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. One last thing I wanted to cover with you is user-defined field. How do you create a data collection form for a user-defined field? Okay, well, I'm going to have to go onto the system again to show you how this is done. Just bear with me a second. Okay. Right, let's see if I can find it. It should show up. All right. Okay, now I'm going to go onto the system. Now, as MIS administrator, I created a lot of user-defined fields. Okay, so when I go to data entry and I take a particular group, let's take this group called May and Leo. I view the data. Can you see my screen, by the way? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, right. I click on data set and I edit it. Okay, and you'll see here I have a tab which says UDF. And under UDF, I have user-created fields and standard data fields. Now, you can see how this appears. It shows user-created fields, and then it covers group quality with 2 metrics and gender with 2 metrics. Okay. And it shows age with 2 metrics about orphans and pensioners. Then it has standard data fields covering group details, income generating activities, and financial institution interactions. So as the MIS administrator, I look at how this is all appearing on my screen, and I create a data collection form which follows exactly the same sequence. So here, for example, here's an Excel file showing what it would look like. I've called it user-defined fields. We have user-created fields where we're covering group quality and gender. We say, what is the metric? Whether it is optional or mandatory. The data type, here it's a percentage, here it's a number, here it's text, and then the actual data itself. So these are my user-created fields under group quality, gender, and age. Then I come down to standard data fields.
Here, can you show us the file?
I'm sorry? Oh, you're not seeing it?
Yeah, we're still on the MIS.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me sort that out. Just a second. Let me stop sharing that. Okay, let me go back. Share. I'm sorry, I should have realized that. Can you see the file now?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Right. So what we do here is we call them user-defined fields. It's all types, or user data fields. It doesn't really matter. We have the data item, whether or not it is mandatory or optional, the type of data, and the data itself. So we have user-created fields, and so we have group quality and gender. And then we have group quality at the end of phase 1. It's an optional field, and there's a percentage. It's a percentage, that's the data type. And then we put the data in, so it might be 75%, okay, like that. Group quality end of phase 2 might be 93%, okay, that would be, whoops, pardon me. I need to put 93%, okay. So this is what my data user-defined data field would look like for user-created fields. That's group quality. Then here I have vulnerability. Okay, and I have number of widows and number of female-headed households. Okay. And they are mandatory fields. I've made them mandatory, but they are numbers. So I would have, let's say, 3. Okay, I would have 3, and the number of female-headed households, maybe I would have 6, and so on. Then so those are the user-created fields, and then down here I've simply added standard data fields, and it's the same thing, but it's now according to what we selected as standard data. But it tells you these are mandatory. This one is optional. It's done here. These are all done as text. Notice the telephone number is done as text, not as a number. And then we have income generating activities and interactions with financial institutions. So what I've done here with this data collection form is basically all I've done is to follow what you see. Let me just log out. I'm going to log out of this. It's what you see. Where is it? Here. Is it here? I think it's it. No, data collection for main screen. And just a minute. There we are. See here. Okay. All right. So all I've done is I've taken what appears on the screen and I've converted that into a data collection form. So it's up to you, first of all, to design what metrics you want, whether they are standard data fields or user-defined fields, decide in what sequence you want, put them in, build them into your system, and then copy what you see on the screen in printable format so that people can collect the data. Okay? Right, I'm done. I think I've covered everything I have to cover for the moment. So if there are any questions,
yeah. Last time we sent the main data collection form, the MIS data collection form, by email. We should do the same with this one?
Yes, this one, I only did this today, and I'm going to send it to everybody by email this afternoon so that you've got an example. And it's based upon the VSL Associates MIS that I've created as my training MIS. Any other questions?
There's a comment here. Well, first of all, there's a question. Is the SAVIX MIS available in Portuguese?
Sorry?
Is it available in Portuguese?
Which?
Is the SAVIX MIS available in Portuguese?
Yeah, you just select language. Let me show you. That's a very basic question. But me, whoopsie. All right, now why didn't you think of that right from the beginning? Hold on a second, let me just pull it up. If you don't know how to do this, you're really stuck. Okay.
And just while you're looking, Hillary, a comment. In my opinion, it's fine to charge for the use of the MIS. It enables long-term sustainability and as an exit strategy for donor funding.
I'll tell you, ever since we started charging, I am so happy because we don't have to go begging donors anymore,
Yes.
scratching at their door and saying, please, please help us. You know, if people are ready to pay for it, it's much healthier for everybody. Okay, guys, now let me just quickly show you what we got here. Just a minute. All right, I'm going to share screens. Now this one is so simple. Notice at the top of the line here, it says English, French, Espanol, Portuguese. Okay.
That was easy.
Swahili, Espanol, Francais. Okay.
All right.
So it's that simple. So,
All right.
yeah.
Other questions? That was a good question. Other questions? Now is the time, because after today we will only meet again for the virtual graduation, which you could ask questions then too, but better now.
Hello?
All right. I don't see any additional questions in the sidebar, and not hearing any other questions. I think I'll take it from here, Hugh.
Okay.
So, and somebody's, I think Jeanette, you need to mute your mic, please. Okay, so just a reminder for a few of you that were late. We do have about 10 days for you to finish any outstanding work. We're looking for a 65% minimum grade, and almost all of you who are on the recording today or on the actual live broadcast today are already at that point or very close. More important than the grade is making sure you really understand how to use the system and all of the different functions. And you can always get support from Hugh later, but you've in many cases created your own MIS for your organization to begin using, and therefore you want to make sure that you know all the functionality, and that's what this whole course is all about. So we're very excited to continue providing support, and Hugh does that, and he's given you an opportunity to go back to your organizations to look at ways that you can incorporate the SAVIX system to a regular part of your overall data gathering for your organization for pretty reasonable fees. But between now and the end of the course, we want to make sure that we answer any questions. Other important pieces of information that you need to pay attention to is that if you are a MasterCard scholar, you need to complete a MasterCard Foundation Microfinance Scholars Evaluation Form. And I'll email those to everybody. It's a two-sided form. Your name goes on it. It's not, sometimes you don't want to put your name on an evaluation form. This is very important. You put your name on it. So please take your time to look at the form and fill out both sides, scan it and send it back to me. Every single person who got a scholarship from MasterCard has to complete that form, and I will track you down, as I said, to your very doorstep if I have to get this, because if we don't get that form, we don't get paid. Even those of you that are listening to this that aren't on the broadcast today, who have been very marginal participants in the course, if you didn't tell me somewhere along the line that you weren't participating, then I have included you, and therefore we're on the hook for your scholarship funds if you don't complete this course and you don't complete that evaluation form. I know I'm speaking to people who aren't on the broadcast today, but it's very important that everybody complete that MasterCard evaluation form. The second evaluation form that we'll be sending out is it's already, if you look up on the Canvas website, the link is already there. It's a electronic survey, and that's for our internal evaluation of the course and also the online learning platform. So please complete that. Everyone does need to complete that. And it is anonymous, so you need to email me to let me know that you've completed it. And finally, you all did a self-assessment, a pre-course self-assessment when you started the course. And that pre-course self-assessment is basically taking the pre-course assessment and then doing a post-course assessment by putting a Y in the boxes that apply. So when you filled it out originally, you used X's. You're going to use the exact same that has the X, but you're going to put in a Y to show where you progressed on the form. And that's for us, but it's also for you, your knowledge of this software and your ability to use it has improved over the course of the past several weeks. That's pretty much it. As I told you, we will be having a virtual graduation. A certificate. It'll be a PDF scanned copy of the certificate. If you want the actual paper copy with the gold foil seal, SMBP, we can make arrangements to try to get that to you. If you have a United States address that we can mail it to, that you can get the certificate to you via courier or something like that, or a European address that we can get those mailed to you through post, and then those will be sent to you through your internal mailing system. If you live in Africa, I can make an attempt to mail things, but does not always arrive. I think we have been able to get stuff to Kenya in the past. So South Africa, more than likely, I can get things to, but I will be happy to try to mail certificates to you, but it may not make it. And I can't spend $40 or $50 or $60 to DHL it to you, unfortunately, unless you want to send me kind of but otherwise you'll get a PDF version of the certificate. But as I said, if you do want me to mail it to you via a U.S. or European address, or you think that your African address would be reliable for regular mail, then I'll try that.
Bill, on that particular point, don't forget that we'll be running the course two courses in South Africa, in Pietermaritzburg, at the end of August, beginning of September. So if anybody, I'll be in Pietermaritzburg. I can bring certificates. If you know anybody who's coming to the course and you can give them, to whom I can give those certificates, I'd be happy to carry them.
All right, yeah, we'll try to coordinate that. There was a question from Victor. Which is the best MIS Civic smartphone app to install on the phones? We have been experiencing challenges with updating or upgrading newer versions periodically.
Okay, it's an Android app, basically. So to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter. As long as you've got a reasonably capable smartphone, it doesn't take up, well, it's a bit of an issue because you don't want to be saving hundreds and hundreds of group data sets on the smartphone before you synchronize. So a reasonably capable smartphone with Android installed. Now, I don't believe that you have got a copy of the mobile app PowerPoint, right, which is an instruction manual in how to use the whole thing. Has anybody received that or not? Because if not, I can make that available.
You should probably make it available, I would say.
Okay, so I'll send out invitations to a Dropbox folder for the mobile app. Okay, I'll send it to everybody's email address. All right. Andrew, can you recall there was one other item I was supposed to take care of sending to people, and I've just gone from my head right now.
It's the MIS data collection form with the user.
Oh yes, the data application form. Okay.
You also have something on the screen. You're showing something on the screen. You're wanting to say something about the assignment.
Oh. Oh, I didn't realize I was sharing the screen. Whoopsie. This was the assignment that we set you last week for entering user-defined field data. So far, we have had interest from 3 and 5 people. The balance is outstanding. You have to fill this in. You have to do it, okay? So far, the quality of the responses has been very good. I particularly want to congratulate Victor, who went beyond above and beyond the call of duty, because he not only filled in the user-defined fields, he also filled in the standard data fields. So I wish I could give you more than 100%, Victor, but I couldn't. You have to be satisfied with 100% on that exercise.
If you do want to know where your grades are, if you go into Canvas, you can see a tab on the left and it says grades, and it'll where you're at and what assignments are missing. I also want to just recognize that we have 9 out of 12 participants participating in this webinar, which is pretty outstanding. I don't know when is the last time we've had 9 students all together in one place, so hurrah for us. And finally, a reminder that we will have a virtual graduation will be on Friday, August 2nd, the same time that we normally do these webinars. Only about a half an hour opportunity to get together one last time, have you ask any final questions, and for us to say some appreciations, and also just to recognize all of the great and very important work that you as practitioners do. And along the lines of that, I do want to mention some advanced information. I just found out that the next Savings Group Conference is going to be held in Durban, South Africa in 2020, so next year. If you've never been to one of these conferences, they're really quite rich, fascinating. People from all over, not only Africa, but really sometimes all over the world attend. I helped organize the first one in Arusha back in 2011, and then every couple of years, more or less, we've been able to have these in different parts of Africa. And the STEEP network, who is primarily responsible for organizing this, is already working on it. And so keep that in mind. And if there's any way you can get yourself to Durban, we will post on our website date and registration information. Will be quite a ways off. But the other thing I think I want to point out about the conference is that there is a really important opportunity for you to come and show the work that you do. There's always a call for sessions, and the call for sessions is really focused on practitioners bringing their hard work and the good savings group organizing work that you've been doing in your local community or region to showcase before everyone else. And these are usually thematic. So you have to look for a theme which your particular savings group project can be considered under, but then you have an opportunity to work with other practitioners and then come and present before a pretty large audience to show people the work that you're doing. So obviously it's good for your own internal, kind of recognition to make sure that the good and innovative work that you're doing is, but it's also good for donors to see you're doing this, and also, terrific opportunity to network with people doing a very wide range of savings group work from all over the world in one place for 2 or 3 days. We actually had one of our colleagues, Paul Rippey, brought a savings group that he had organized via a website he put up online. They came from Ferguson, Missouri in the United States, and actually came to talk about their savings group work. So it's really an exciting opportunity. If you're able to participate in it, then it'll be very rewarding. So keep that in mind, and we will have more information about the Savings Group 2020 conference in Durban, South Africa. All right. Does anyone have final comments or any questions before we wrap this up? Hugh or Andrew or any of our participants?
Nothing from me, just wishing the students all the best as they finalize their whatever's left the
Great.
next 10 minutes.
Thanks everybody for showing up. Okay.
Okay. And as I said numerous times, I'm going to say it again, Hugh and Andrew are there for you. So if you get stuck, just drop them a line, and we'll be happy to assist you with whatever problems you're having to make sure that you really understand how to use the SAVEX before we completely end the course. And I also will throw out a little lifeline to people who are really having trouble. You do have, virtually till the 1st of August to finish, and we will could make arrangements to work with you to get additional work done if you wanted to continue beyond that. But it really makes it difficult for us to continue the course beyond that point. So let's see if we could all wrap it up in the next 2 weeks and then have a good virtual graduation on August 2nd. We will be posting this on YouTube. All of the recordings are on YouTube. It's a good idea to download documents, anything you need from the Canvas site in the next week or two, because it will go away. The YouTube videos will be there, but they'll be hard to find, so you should copy down those links if you want to refer back to them as a resource. It's useful to have that information, so make sure you take those links and put them somewhere safe. And also want to make it clear that Hugh will be around continuously supporting the SAVEX. It's his baby, so as you go forward, if you decide to go into some type of arrangement with your organization to become a paid customer, obviously you'll know that Hugh will be there and will be accessible to you. So, all right, well, thanks to everybody. Everyone have a great day, and we will be in touch with you via email on a couple different matters, evaluation and other things, and then hopefully everybody can join us for the virtual graduation on August 2nd. So thanks, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.